3 true disturbing farm horror stories. Today, we delve into the eerie and unsettling world of farm horror stories. Lock your doors, turn off the lights, and join us as we explore the unsettling truth behind 3 true disturbing farm horror stories. Our first story takes us deep into the heartland, to a secluded farm miles from any town or neighbor. A farmer named Thomas, a man hardened by years of toil under the sun, found himself face to face with the unknown. He had risen in the dead of night, compelled by an unexplainable feeling of unease. Stepping outside, he felt a chill wind against his face, a stark contrast to the usual stillness of the night.
As I made my way towards the barn, my heart was pounding in my chest. I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. A figure, tall and slender, standing at the edge of the cornfield. It stood unnaturally still, as if carved from the darkness itself.
Fear gripped Thomas's heart, but curiosity, or perhaps a strange sense of duty, compelled him to move closer. He called out, his voice raspy and uncertain in the night, but the figure didn't respond. With each step closer, Thomas felt a growing sense of dread.
Finally, as I was just feet away, the figure turned. Its face, if you could call it that, was obscured by the shadows, but 2 points of crimson light pierced through the darkness, burning into my very soul. I stumbled back. A scream caught in my throat, paralyzed by fear as the figure took a step toward me.
Thomas, mustering all his courage, turned and ran back towards the house, his breath catching in his throat, his heart pounding against his ribs like a drumbeat of terror. He didn't dare look back. The image of those crimson eyes seared into his mind. He burst into the house, slamming the door behind him, the sound echoing through the silent rooms. Leaning against the door, he struggled to catch his breath, the events of the past few minutes replaying in his mind.
The sun's rays brought little comfort, the fear from the night clinging to me like a shroud. I tried to rationalize what I had seen, but the memory of the figure, the chilling growl, and those eyes sent shivers down my spine. I had never believed in the supernatural, but that night something changed in me.
The isolation of farm life had taken on a new meaning, a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying things lie hidden in the shadows, just beyond the reach of the city lights. He knew he could tell no one. Who would believe him? A farmer rambling about figures and glowing eyes, but he knew what he had seen. He continued to work the farm, but he was never the same. Our next story takes us to a sprawling farm nestled in the rolling hills of the countryside. The property boasted a large farmhouse, fields stretching as far as the eye could see, and an old, dilapidated barn that stood forgotten at the edge of the property. A young family, new to farm life, purchased the property, eager to embrace the tranquility and self-sufficiency it offered. They paid little attention to the dilapidated barn, focusing their efforts on revitalizing the farmhouse and the surrounding fields.
It started subtly at first, unexplained noises emanating from the barn at night, the creaking of wood, the rustling of unseen creatures, the occasional thud that echoed through the silent house.
The family, initially dismissive, soon found their apprehension growing with each passing night. Their young daughter Lily was particularly attuned to the strange occurrences. She would often wake up in the middle of the night claiming to hear whispers and giggles coming from the direction of the barn. Her parents, though concerned, tried to rationalize it as an overactive imagination, the product of adjusting to a new environment.
One evening, as the sun began its descent, casting long, eerie shadows across the farmland, Lily went missing. Panic surged through us as we searched the farmhouse and surrounding fields, our calls for our daughter echoing unanswered through the growing darkness.
As the last vestiges of daylight faded, casting an oppressive gloom over the property, they found themselves drawn to the abandoned barn. The barn door, which they swore they had left nailed shut, stood ajar, as if beckoning them inside. With hearts pounding in their chests, they stepped across the threshold, the musty air thick with the scent of decay and the weight of unseen eyes.
The interior of the barn was shrouded in darkness, the only light filtering through the cracks in the boarded-up windows. The air hung heavy, thick with the dust of ages, and an oppressive silence that seemed to stifle our every breath.
As they ventured deeper into the barn, their footsteps echoing ominously on the aged wooden floorboards, they noticed something peculiar hanging from the rafters. It was a doll, Lily's favorite doll, hanging by its neck from a makeshift noose. The sight sent a chill down their spines, their blood turning to ice in their veins.
Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the silence, followed by the sound of giggling, high-pitched, and filled with a chilling malice that sent shivers down our spines.
Following the sound, they stumbled upon Lily, huddled in a corner, her eyes wide with terror, her body trembling uncontrollably.
As we embraced our daughter, our hearts heavy with relief and a growing sense of dread, we took the paper from her trembling hand. Written on it, in a child's handwriting, were 3 chilling words: "Get out."
They didn't need to be told twice. Bundling Lily in their arms, they fled the barn, the sound of their own terrified gasps echoing behind them. Our final story takes us to a remote farmhouse, isolated and shrouded in an almost tangible sense of dread.
The farmhouse had stood empty for years, its previous occupants driven away by a series of unexplained events that defied rational explanation. But whispers of the house's dark history lingered, passed down through generations of locals who knew better than to approach the property after dark.
The stories spoke of a family torn apart by tragedy, their sorrow and anguish seeping into the very walls of the house, transforming it into a conduit for something sinister, something hungry for the living.
One ill-fated night, a group of friends, emboldened by youthful bravado and a healthy dose of liquid courage, decided to explore the abandoned farmhouse. They had heard the stories, of course, but dismissed them as nothing more than local folklore, eager to prove their bravery and debunk the myths that surrounded the place.
As they approached the farmhouse, the air grew heavy, thick with an oppressive silence that seemed to swallow their laughter and chatter. The once charming farmhouse now loomed over them, its windows like vacant eyes, its front door creaking ominously in the wind.
Undeterred, the friends cautiously made their way inside, their flashlights cutting through the darkness, illuminating the dust-covered furniture and the remnants of a life long gone. The air inside was stale and heavy, thick with the scent of decay and the weight of unseen eyes.
As they ventured deeper into the house, their voices hushed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension, they began to notice strange occurrences. Footsteps echoed on the floorboards above them, though they were alone in the house. Doors slammed shut on their own, as if propelled by an unseen hand. Whispers seemed to emanate from the walls, chilling their blood and sending shivers down their spines.
One of the friends, a young woman named Sarah, felt an overwhelming sense of dread wash over her. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched, that something malevolent was lurking in the shadows, toying with them. She tried to rationalize her fear, but the oppressive atmosphere of the house, the unexplained noises, and the growing sense of unease within her own gut told her that something was deeply, terribly wrong.
Suddenly, the house seemed to come alive. The temperature plummeted, sending a wave of icy air through the rooms. The whispers intensified, morphing into blood-curdling screams that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The friends, their initial bravado shattered, panicked. They stumbled through the darkened hallways, desperate to find an escape from the nightmare that had trapped them within the house's decaying walls.
As they ran, Sarah felt a cold hand grip her wrist, its touch sending a jolt of terror through her body. She screamed, trying to pull away, but the grip tightened, its icy fingers digging into her flesh.
Thank you for joining us on this spine-chilling journey into the heart of farm horror. If you enjoyed these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more true horror tales. We have many more stories to tell. But until then, stay safe and keep your lights on. You never know what might be lurking in the shadows just beyond your sight.